Welcome back. What a difference a year makes. At last year's Conservative conference, anything that could go wrong for Theresa May did. From falling letters to a stuttering cough, it was a low point in what was a tumultuous few years as Britain's Prime Minister. Well, a few hours ago, she was back on the stage, but this time with a swagger. Yes, that is Theresa May dancing to ABBA, a reference to her much ridiculed dancing while on a trip to Africa. That self-depreciating stance was well received by the crowd, but her hour-long speech was not just jokes. She had some tough messages for Brussels too on Brexit.
Leaving without a deal, introducing tariffs and costly checks at the border would be a bad outcome for the UK and the EU. It would be tough at first, but the resilience and ingenuity of the British people would see us through. Some people ask me to rule out no deal. But if I did that, I would weaken our negotiating position and have to agree to whatever the EU offers. And at the moment, that would mean accepting one of two things. Either a deal that keeps us in the EU in all but name, keeps free movement, keeps vast annual payments, and stops us signing trade deals with other countries, or a deal that carves off Northern Ireland, a part of this country, effectively leaving it in the EU's customs union.
Well, let's take you to Birmingham. Bianco Nobilo joins me live. And before we get to the nitty-gritty stuff, I just want to talk about that dancing, because Theresa May did say that this was meant to be a party for everybody. She was talking about her political party, but she certainly looked to be having a party to herself as she danced onto that stage.
Yes, she did, and it was quite unexpected. Everybody erupted with laughter that I could hear. Of course, she was trying to disarm the audience and her critics because of that rather embarrassing viral sensation that was her dancing when she was in Africa. But she did look like she was enjoying herself, and I think it set a good tone for the rest of the speech, bearing in mind that the chief criticisms of this Prime Minister are the fact that she's not particularly personable and she's not good at being spontaneous or making fun of herself, and that the usual charm offensive that you see from politicians when they're on the campaign trail or when they're in office. So I think this actually it stood her in good stead with the party and also the public at large.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about that reaction, because it was such a contrast to last year, and she certainly tried to paint a picture of a brighter future for Britain.
I mean, a huge contrast to last year. As you outlined, she had that terrible cough. There was a prankster who invaded her conference speech and presented her with a P45, a form that you give when you're firing somebody, just as a symbol of how precarious her leadership was at that point. And then the set fell apart behind her. Well, she was on good form today, and she had jokes to make about that too. Let's take a listen.
Can I just say, you will have to excuse me if I do cough during the speech. I've been up all night supergluing the backdrop.
And again, it was important that the Prime Minister took this tone, because she's always being compared at the moment, whether she likes it or not, to Boris Johnson, who gave a rousing address to the conference the day before. He encouraged the audience and the country at large to chuck her checkers plan. Now, Boris, whether or not he presents a direct threat to her leadership remains to be seen, but what he does do is put the differences between them into sharp relief. Boris is charismatic. He can command a room, things that Theresa May isn't usually associated with, but she managed to impress today. The response inside the hall was overwhelmingly positive. The MPs I spoke to said they thought it was her best speech ever. Whether or not that's resonated widely in the public remains to be seen, but it was a good day for the Prime Minister.
It certainly seemed like that. I've still got that ABBA song stuck in my head. I'm sure you do too. Bianco Nobilo, thanks so much.